Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Real Estate 360 Live. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined today by my guest, Louis Cammarosano, the General Manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, the show is designed and dedicated to building the Washington, D.C. Metro's housing and credit markets one house at a time by giving you good, free advice. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or real estate needs, the best number to reach out to us is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. And remember, that number is, if you're trying to obtain financing to buy a home, if you need to be represented in a transaction because you're trying to buy or sell a home, or you're in a stress situation where you've been working with your bank for months and months, in some case a year, if not two, trying to get a successful modification complete, and you can't. The bank keeps telling you that they need more and more documentation, only to find out at the end that they deny you anyway. We can help, lead you in the right direction, give you options. Don't feel like you're the only one out there, because this is very rampant across the United States. Everybody's in the same situation, and we're just here to give you those options. The number again, 877-245-2030, or via the web at realestate360live.com. So I want to go ahead and get into what's on deck this week in the market, this week's market movers. As I had stated earlier, we have Bernanke that's going to speak today at 4:30, so that's important to pay attention just to see what he says. That could affect interest rates one way or the other. Also, we are going to have retail sales this week, also the producer price index and the consumer price index. Two reports on the status of manufacturing and housing starts and permits. On Wednesday, the Fed will release the Beige Book, which is the Fed's detailed report on the economy from the Fed districts. And also we have Congress, which is due back to begin debates on the debt ceiling, spending cuts, and entitlement reforms. So these are all things this week that can affect interest rates, that could potentially, move them significantly up or down. My take is that we haven't seen significant jumps one way or the other, and I feel like we're at a point in time where probably you're not going to see interest rates move more than 0.25% one way or the other. This is my personal opinion. I feel like that numerous other people that are out there that really follow the mortgage-backed security market, they feel the same way. We have the 10-year note, which is a very good indicator. If you watch the 10-year note, you can typically move hand in hand with interest rates. The 10-year, it was creeping up on its highest levels, but then it pulled back. It's presently at 1.85%. It's possible that it reaches the 2% level, which would mean that probably interest rates could tick up another eighth or so. But I look for actually interest rates to improve a little bit this week, outside of Bernanke saying, something that really disturbs the markets even more. And if, like I said,
don't you think he will say something that will somewhat spook the markets?
Yeah, I think he's going to come right back on top of their Fed minutes and say, basically give everybody an indicator that the economy looks like it's moving in the right direction, and that they're going to slow their accommodative policy down, not giving definitive dates, but you know what I mean?
Cautiously optimistic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Cautiously optimistic, which would get the stock market back rallying again. I mean, it is incredible, Louis. Don't you agree the stock market is where it is right now? I mean, you can't tell me that things are that great right now that the stock market should be where it's at.
No, the stock market is not an indicator of the health of the economy. It's an indicator of the Fed's accommodative policy of money printing.
But I would say, would you agree with me that the average American, if they just looked at a couple indicators to judge how the economy is outside of employment, because,
Yeah, but even there, they're kind of swayed by the lower unemployment numbers, and they're also swayed by the government figures that say that inflation is under control, even though reality shows them that the employment situation isn't that good, probably based on their own circumstances or their friends and family, and when they go to the grocery store, they see the prices are higher, but they're being told, well, no, the inflation's really under control. They see the prices in the gas going up. They're double the price that they were 4 years ago, but somehow people are convinced because the CPI comes in supposedly at 1 or 2%, and so it's under control.
Yeah, and I think that one of the major factors outside of the employment numbers is and really dictates the consumer sentiment is what is housing doing? Is my house price moving up or down? I mean, you do a survey all the time that basically shows what people feel about their home values, and I think that really dictates how they feel about the overall economy. Would you agree?
Sure. The HomeGain survey showed in the last quarter that a vast majority of homeowners and realtors think that home prices will be heading up in the next 6 months and in the next 3 years. And really, for sentiment, for people, they like to look at it not on a relative basis, but where we headed now. So if you're at the bottom of the pit and you're moving up, you feel like things are better.
Yep.
And you feel that things are good because you're headed in the right direction, even though you're really at the bottom.
Yeah, and I can actually give a prime example of this because I actually took a call last week from a past client of mine that said, hey, Ryan, I just wanted to check in. I want to see. I know home values have been moving up. I know I'm still upside down, but I want to see, where I'm at. Am I going to be? Is it looking like I'm going to be here for another year, another 2 years, another 3 years? So when you start feeling those calls, it's almost like, okay, he's getting a little positive because he sees house values moving back up.
It's the right direction, right?
Exactly. So inside he's starting. This same person, I'm not going to name any names or anything, before was actually considering short sale when things were moving negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so everything is kind of shifted now where he's now mentally, in his head, he's okay with, if I got to wait another 2 or 3 years, I can probably break even at this point.
Because it looks like you use the flip side example. Somebody has a 300% gain in the stock, and the stock drops 10%, and they end up selling it, for 200% plus gain. They feel almost like they've been cheated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, they've made a fortune, but they didn't make as big of a fortune because when they sold, the stock was going in a direction against them.
Yeah, and the I would say a large portion of the people that are very happy right now with their home purchases in the last year and a half, 2 years are the first-time home buyers.
And the people who bought short sales.
Exactly, absolutely. I mean, the people that bought the bargains, the foreclosures and the short sales within the last 2 years, I mean, they've got probably a nice little positive equity situation. They feel great about the real estate market.
And they probably have a job, and that's why they're able to purchase those homes.
Sure, and that's, I think, the frustrating part, and this is also going to lead us into this week's credit tip of the week, which is brought to you by the Credit Pros. Damon actually has said that over the break, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, also known as CFPB, published results of a study that was hoping to further clarify the happenings at the three national credit reporting agencies, which is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, there was some wild, and before this, unpublished pieces of information that Damon shared with me, and the first thing that jumped out in that study was suggested that fewer than 20% of consumers obtain copies of their credit report each year. Okay? Fewer than 20%. That's like a staggering number because if fewer than 20% of people are actually pulling a copy of their credit report to see if things are accurate, to find out what their credit scores are, what they can do to improve it, what do you think the likelihood of them getting approved for a loan is? It's probably not very high. And so with that being said, I'm actually, for all of you listening out there, I think that it's critical that everybody gets a copy of their credit report at least once a year. And you can go for free to pull that at annualcreditreport.com. I would suggest that, matter of fact, before you even go to the lender, before you go to the car dealership, wherever it may be, go to annualcreditreport.com. And, once you put in your information and you get a copy of that free report, if your report is 45 pages long and you've got collections and repos and foreclosures and all that stuff on there, I would probably say don't even waste your time going to the lender and getting a hard inquiry on your report because it's just going to ding your credit score further. It's critical and very important that you do this because I think that this is one of the things where you need to be looking ahead, 6 months to a year from now. Okay, I plan on buying a house. Well, that's great. Don't go into it blindly. I know probably many of you out there that are probably like, I have a 700 credit score, only to show up to the lender's office, to the car dealership to find out your credit score is 580. And then you're wondering, how did that happen? What was on there? Well, That's the difference between, being proactive, looking at your report, getting something fixed, going into, that mortgage office and getting a home loan or auto dealership and getting a car loan, credit card, whatever it may be, and being forced into a situation where you just kind of, you accept, you take a higher rate because you're stuck at that point. You need it. You need that loan. Or you're denied. You're denied the mortgage because you didn't even know where your credit stood. And, Lewis, I think that this is one of the things that's most overlooked, especially where we are right now with the very tight lending guidelines in the mortgage world, and it's affecting real estate. There was a study that had just came out, I think in the third quarter of last year by Transamerica, I believe it was, that had showed that they were showing somewhere close to 30% of all homes are owned outright without loans, 30%. So that's a very large chunk of the market, and I think that they actually went in and they did that study with 1,800 cities across the country. But if those are holding true, it kind of makes sense, where we are today in the actual mortgage market and real estate market. We have 30% people that are maybe either paying cash or completely paid off their house. And then you have your first-time home buyers, which comprise probably, I'd say, about another 30-some%. So you really only have, that other 30% that's there that are people maybe move-up buyers or people that are able to buy more properties. I really feel like, the two most critical components are your credit and your job.
Yep.
Those are the most important things. And if you can get those two things situated, now I know many people have hardships right now. They're not able to find steady work. They've been out of work, and now they found a job. And now, the lender's telling you, hey, well, you have to have 2 years consistent history. So it can be very frustrating, but at least know that you can work on one of those things. You can always, start to work on your credrit.
Right, does that 2-year rule count if you switch jobs, but you're continuously employed?
Well, that's an interesting question, okay?
Because the mobile workforce today, people have jobs for 2 or 3 years.
It's a great question, Lewis, and when we come back, I will answer that. Guys, stay right there.